How is your place? The chair you're sitting in is your place, albeit temporarily. You inhabit it. You've performed it. You've come into the theatre. You've selected the seat. You've perhaps put a bag or papers down in a certain position. You can shuffle in it whenever you want to. It's temporarily yours. You're comfortable, and the actions you've undertaken have made it yours. 3 weeks ago, I was up at the Edinburgh Festival, sitting in the Pleasance courtyard, having drinks with friends, very comfortable. It was very familiar, one of my places. That same weekend was the start of the UK football season, and hundreds of thousands of fans returned to their stadium, their place. Probably even more their place if their team won, obviously. Also that weekend, a friend of mine went to her allotment. She took her 2 young daughters. It's a place of history and contentment for her. It's her place. But for everybody who is comfortable in their place, there is someone whose place is disrupted, maybe even torn apart. This photo is of a place project in Oldham, near Manchester in the UK. Most of the people in the photo are migrants. Oldham was once the largest mill town in the world. It has a long history of welcoming migrants. This is another place project in London with adults who are in care, 24/7 supported living, relatively new to the location. I'll return to these later. Concepts of place and belonging are difficult for the people in these projects. Feeling a sense of place, feeling a sense of belonging doesn't happen as easily for them as it does for most of us, I suspect. And because of major changes globally, there are going to be less people who feel comfort in place. But we can do something about that. We can help people feel comfortable in place. And that's what this talk is about. What is place? How can we build place attachment? And how can performing places help us make place? When I'm talking about place, I'm talking about a physical place, somewhere that's inhabited. I mean residence, location, dwelling. We're connected to place. It's knowledge, we know it, it's familiar, we feel it. Mostly when we talk about place, it's positive. Not always, but usually we have the impulse to speak with warmth or with a slight smile about place. And terms such as place attachment and place making proliferate. UK local authorities are bedding place into new local strategies. And they're calling on creative activities to help. Place, belonging, it's become important. But there are problems with place as well. It's not always so positive. When we become embedded, we can be territorial, excluding, defensive. And then we delimit our horizons, literally. And any stillness that we once sought in place, seeking that stability and solidity that so many of us have yearned for, that stillness can turn to a sealed inertia. And then we protect, sometimes fiercely. So in defending our place, we exclude others or even displace others. And we know from recent events about such excess in localism and protectionism, nationalist, populist rhetoric that enforces borders and erects walls, as we know. So let me talk a little bit further about what's happening now and how place could be affected in the future. We are moving more. We're moving around the globe. There's more people moving, and that's increasing. There are, we are told, 1 million people in the air at any one time, always 1 million. New silk roads are being built from Shanghai to London and Lisbon. Whether we are moving around the world out of choice because we have the wealth, the power, the status, or whether we've been forced out of our homes and our nations, we are moving more. We're increasing rail and road networks, and we're expanding airports. Since 1960, there has been a 200% increase in migration. To such an extent, apparently, that if we put all migrants together in one country, not that we do that, it would be the 5th largest country in the world. Some of those migrants are refugees. Well, actually, over 20 million globally are refugees. Even from the most recent crisis, Uganda is hosting 1 million Syrian refugees, which is more than the whole of Europe put together, and Jordan, 1.2 million. And it's not just political refugees who will be on the move, it's climate refugees, or it's potentially climate refugees. The countries in the planetary south are struggling with the climate injustice from the countries in the planetary north. The excess of energy use from the north is damaging countries in the south. Lands are diminishing. Places are disappearing. And whilst the annual growth rate of renewables, that's renewable energy sources, is increasing, thank goodness, fossil fuels it's still 80% power is 86% power is powered by fossil fuels. And that's worrying. So lands will diminish, places will disappear, populations will move. Let's take another interpretation of movement. Of course, we have increased digital connectivity. Most of us here could probably contact someone on the other side of the world instantly, now, through cyberspace. And cyberspace offers alternative places in the ether. It's not something that I've done, but it's something that some of you may have done, which is to take on an imagined avatar and to inhabit an alternative place, a fictional place, a cyberplace. Cyberplace will certainly impact upon the way that we think about physical places. But we don't actually know what will happen with physical places. So I'm going to move off global projections, and I'm going to move to the individual and the personal, those that would feel the lack of place most. Many of us don't want to jog through places with only fleeting connections. Some do, and that's fine, that's great. But many of us don't want that. We want the qualities of long-term place, the ease and the belonging, even if we're only there for a short period of time. So what can be done? How can we make permanent, impermanent, temporary places satisfying and quickly? Belonging needs to be speeded up, particularly for those who are at risk or ill at ease, who need belonging more. Well, it's possible. We can do that. We can manufacture place. We can accelerate place attachment. By using performance practices, we can speed up location, dwelling, residence, placemaking. I've been undertaking some practical research with colleagues and with some highly experienced facilitators using performance practices in community contexts to do just that. What we have found is if we work with groups, subverting places through performance, their feelings and response to that place can change. Through subversions, or if you like, performing the unexpected, they feel place more. They feel at home and attached more quickly because they've made or they've joined in making changes to those places. They've inputted. They've shifted generic sites into meaningful places. They've performed the place. They see the place through new eyes. Let me give you some examples. Let me talk through some examples and show you some. In a northern town, new and existing residents there are tensions between cultural groups. They're prompted to review their local streets. Foreign beings have landed. Of course they have. They've landed and they're there for a week. And those beings are there to have a good look round, but also they're seeking positive energy from that area, from the people, from the walls, from the balloons, from the cracks in the pavement. And that fuel, that positive energy, which I'm sure you will have recognized, is going to fuel their spacecraft, which will then take them back to their planet. So residents look at their place differently. They're looking at it through the eyes of new strangers. London youth lose their fear of threatening places or simply review dull, everyday places differently. By playing out an art room or changing a playground with a personal ribbon, responses to sight change. We have, as I said earlier, we have been working with adults in care to improve their response to their localities. So they've sprinkled sprinkles on their way to Sprinkles ice cream parlour so that local roots feel as though they belong. A triangle of pavement is turned into an hour-long party site for themselves and for passers-by. I can't pass that triangle anymore without remembering that transformation. Residents in a Welsh town regret a loss of community. They identify an old, closed-down, greatly missed Lido, an open-air swimming pool, as a symbol, as an icon of that lost communality. So I persuade some performers to don some swimming costumes that they might otherwise not have donned, and we re-perform that old site. New memories are created, are added to that community layering of place. Refugees and asylum seekers, as I said earlier, up in Oldham, create a different response to thoroughfares that they know, such that they can smile at those throughways. They won't forget a curious, subverted tea party. They make small models in a nearby beauty spot that they've not been to, and then they leave something of themselves in that place. So what I'm saying is that we can accelerate place attachment through such detailed and creative approaches to local places with the people who dwell there. Places are going to be disrupted. We know that. We know that we'll move, or other people will move in, or it will structurally change. But we can enhance attachment by undertaking slightly alternative, bit off the wall, marginally radical, participatory performance practices. Performing place increases place attachment. Place attachment increases well-being. We can indeed keep a sense of place in a disrupted world. Thank you.